Testing 1 2 3. Hopefully you can hear me. Coming to you live from edge of bed as per usual. By the time you watch this, I'll be coming back from traveling, so I thought this was a perfect opportunity to film a Q&A. And I know you're thinking, like, who asked you to do a Q&A? You have like no followers. I asked myself to do a Q&A because I haven't really done that on this channel. So instead of like putting it on my stories, because my Instagram is like bad vibes right now, and it's hard to do that on TikTok and here as well. Instead of asking for questions, I've formulated my own. So I'll be reading off of my own list and things that I question myself, and I think other people would probably, just basic questions. Anyway, so let's get into it. If you're new here, my name is Christine. On certain channels, I go by Florida Gal Abroad, like on this one. But in my other social media, I'm Chris Gregg. I have a couple of, let's say, projects that fall under that umbrella, which a Florida girl abroad is. I'm originally from Florida, as you might have guessed. I was raised in the Miami area. I say Miami because people don't really know where Fort Lauderdale is, and I'm like, it's just north of Miami. So for ease, I say Miami. I grew up in South Florida, which is a very different culture than the rest of Florida, if you can imagine. My family is from Jamaica, but they basically got their start in London. So it's nice having that Caribbean background and being so close. That's basically why they settled in Florida, is because it was closer to family in Jamaica. So obviously that makes sense. And when you grow up in that kind of environment, like the tropics, paradise, people ask me all the time in the UK, why would you move here from Florida? And it's like, you get used to that back down there. At a certain point in my teenage angst, I was just like, this is so boring to me. Like, there's nothing to do here. You go to the beach your whole life, and then you get to a certain age where everybody is just partying and you don't want to do that anymore. You're just kind of like, I'm so over it, sorry. So I haven't spent time home in any meaningful way since I moved out for college. That brings me to my next question. Where did you go to school? So I did my undergrad in architecture from University of Notre Dame, and I did my master's in real estate from Kingston University in London. I finished that master's, maybe this will be my 5th year living in London, so I will say I finished it 4 years ago now in September. The time is passing and it's so crazy. It's so weird. I worked in architecture for a while. That's why my social media is architectural focused, especially the photography, because it's what I know and it is what I love. I just don't want to be I was in that field for a few years, and it's not something that I wanted to stay in. I thought there were people more passionate than me about architecture, so when you're young, in your 20s, you kind of are like, this is it, like I have to stay in this field, in this environment. But I had like the worst crash out in my early 20s. I definitely had a quarter life crisis, and I moved to New York, still at an architecture firm, but that was life-changing. I had never intended to move to New York. I wanted to move from Atlanta, where I got a job after graduating undergrad, to London, but Brexit happened. So in the meantime, because the wind blows and the architecture field is like collapsed, Brexit happened, and I moved to New York because my friend said, hey, we're hiring, just come here, work for a bit, and then you could think about moving to London again. When I was in New York, I was like, I'm gonna regret never moving to London. I need to try. And it was my friend's wedding in 2019 in Istanbul that led me to that decision, because I had a stopover after in the UK. I didn't stay in London. I was in the countryside for a week. And I said, I have to move here. So then the following year in 2020, I made the decision, and I let my company know really early. I gave them way too much notice, and then the pandemic happened. So yeah, I was SOL for a few months. I happened to get into a postgraduate program. Anyway, that's such a spiel. I like ranted for like 5 minutes straight. What was I talking about? What was the question? I think it was undergrad. Yeah, where did I go for undergrad? One thing I wrote down for myself was, did I always know I wanted to be an architect? And the answer is no. I wanted to be in politics for the longest time, because I always thought that it's so dramatic. There's so much drama. All politics is drama. I'll be honest with you, I spent a summer working in DC, and I have some friends in government, and just to hear about it, I'm just like, from what I've witnessed and what my friends go through, I'm just like, you guys don't understand how petty it is. It feels like gossip, but on a more serious, grand scale. I wanted to do politics, but then somebody's like, okay, well, if you want a degree in political science, like, what does that lead to? You could become a lawyer. It's like, I don't want to be a lawyer. So in politics is like, be a lawyer, be a civil servant of some variety, or be a diplomat. it all centered around something with law. So I said, no, my mom is a lawyer, my sister's a lawyer, and I said, I'm not going to law school. What is my relationship status? So I am single as hell. I was just talking about this with somebody. I basically was like at a fork in the road when I was 28. I'm 33 now. And it was either move abroad or stay in New York and try to make serious efforts, intentional efforts of dating so I could settle down. I got a therapist at that time because the age between 28 and 33, like those 5 years are really, there's so much pressure. It feels like everybody's scrambling to find somebody because that's just what you do. It's time for that. And I had a therapist who kind of led me to the decision, like, I mean, it's not her. I always had a thought. It's like I wanted to do what I wanted to do, and that was to move abroad. And I said, well, if I find somebody, then maybe we'll move together. And she was like, what if their job doesn't allow them to do that? And then you have kids, and then you're there. You have to prioritize the kids. You can't just up and leave. I mean, you can, but it's like they have a routine too. You have to think about them. And so, yeah, I was at a crossroads at 28. It's like another little crisis, but not as bad as when I was like 24. And I moved, and so I've had some, like, I've dated around in London a bit, and I think because I was up north for 2 years, I sort of set myself back, but I don't want to say that, like, negatively, like, at all. I set myself back in terms of dating because I just wasn't, and up there, they marry so early, like at 22, so there wasn't really anybody around that was single. So then now that I'm back in London permanently, it's like, I don't know, everybody's already taken, everybody's married, and that's my default. It's like, oh, this person is probably married, so I don't even think about it too much. I'm just living my life. Like, I'm one of these people who's like, it's not a priority for me. I'm not fussed. I probably don't want children. If I'm 33 and on the fence, it's like, I'd rather be on the fence than have them and regret them tremendously, because I feel like you should have kids. Like, if you want kids, you should have them. If you're on the fence, it's like, I don't agree with setting that child up for resentment, in life. So I didn't want that. And then for marriage, through construction, and I'll get into that in a second. So through construction, I realized I had so much freedom, and I said, why would I ever get married if I can just leave? And I was speaking with some coworkers who had always been sort of a contractor-based worker. So they've lived in Dubai, they lived in Hong Kong, they've lived in Singapore, and that's what I wanted to do, because I'm such a travel junkie. Like, I've been bitten by the travel bug. I have no desire to really settle. So once I realized that, and it's for the benefit that I wasn't married at the time, because I could just leave. Like, I had this dual life over there up north and down in London, and nobody complained. Like, I didn't have to deal with anybody complaining about not being home or etc., etc. So I just clocked that I had so much freedom, and I'm very hard pressed right now to give that up. I am somebody that it's not really what I care to focus on. Like, it's not my priority. It can be other people's priority. Like, that's totally cool. Live your life. But I for me, what works for me is like traveling all the time. Do I get tired at this age? Yes. I'm not like old and decrepit, but I am getting a little bit tired sometimes if I'm just on the go too much. Speaking of construction, basically, after post-grad, I started working in project management because I didn't want to go into the real estate development side. I was like, I don't really like I don't like what you guys do. What is the in-between between real estate development and architecture? And it was project management. So I started doing that for about like a good 9-10 months, and then the construction management part of my job needed help, and it was only supposed to be a month in Brighton. So I ended up going there, and I was like, this really helps because I might have ADHD. I have never diagnosed myself, but I might have ADD, ADHD, and this really helps because I'm always out of my chair. I don't need to like sit at a desk all day. I realized how much it suit my personality, and I've never really left. I mean, now I'm back in PM, but I'm still out and about, like going to site visits and stuff like that. Yeah, I was in construction and I was working around all those guys, and I just learned so much from them, and just working around majority of men, I've gotten a lot of insight into how men think. It's very interesting, let's say. Do I want to stay in the UK forever? As of right now, that is my plan. I love this country so much. And it's like, I know that has its good and bad. Like, I'm very aware of it. I'm very aware of classism, the north-south divide. I'm very aware of the issues, and it's one of the only places where I've accepted the bad with the good. I'm all in. Basically, the only thing that would take me back to the US right now is if I had a family emergency, and I always said that I would be the one to take care of my mom if anything happens, like God forbid. Yeah, so the only thing that's calling me home is if it's family related, which I'm willing and prepared to do. But this is my home. I would love to buy a flat or a little cottage or whatever, and I just love my UK life, and I don't know what happened. It's like there's something that made it feel like homey, and I don't know if it was because I was up north for so long. If you're just in London, it can feel very much like only surface level interactions, but because I've experienced so much of the country and other ways of life living in different parts of the country, it's felt way more homey. I can't articulate it very well, but I think you know what I mean. It's like it's never felt transitory to me. It's felt permanent for a while now. So I'm very, very happy to be here. And this brings me to how did I get here, like visa stuff. I'm actually a dual citizen, so I didn't have to go through that process, unfortunately. But I do have a friend that has, Candace Abroad. She's spoken about the visa situation, and she's actually written a blog post about it as well, and I find that very helpful, so you should go read it. I'll put her info in the box below. She's really good, very good London blogger, very informative. Oh, why did I start this channel? That is such a good question. Okay, I've always wanted to start YouTube in some way. I had been thinking about it for like 10 years, like ever since I graduated from college. And the reason why I've really dove into it now is because I'm really alone, but not lonely, if that makes sense. Like, people think it's sad if you're in your 30s and you're single and like no kids, no husband or household to take care of. I don't think it's sad. But the thing that I've had to contend with is that other people deprioritize their friendships, and so they have less time for you, which I've accepted because the timings of hanging out can be so sporadic and like long, like once every other month or something like that. I have a lot of time on my hands, and I wanted to document my life because at the end of the day, if it's just me, I want to celebrate my life in some way. That's why I continue on doing this, is because I watch my videos back, and I like documenting my life and seeing where I was at a certain point and what I was thinking and feeling, and I like it. I like my YouTube. I like my social media. I like doing this, and it's because I have time and I'm by myself that I do this, and I continue to do this. Like, I would have to find somebody when I'm dating. Like, I'd have to find somebody that is totally okay with me vlogging. And it's not that I vlog all the time. I actually do it every other week, and I edit as I go along, which makes it very, very easy. I have this whole process now that makes everything very easy. So I am enjoying what I'm putting out these days immensely, and with my 9 to 5, it's I've just had a schedule and it's working out. I've deprioritized some social media platforms and prioritized others because at the end of the day, you don't know how long these apps are going to be around for, so it's not like you should put all your eggs in one basket. Ooh, travel plans for this year. Okay, so I'm going to Florence soon. It's kind of a spontaneous trip. I've allotted for one spontaneous trip this year. On my TikTok, I had posted about all the travel that I wanted to do this year. It was like my ultimate wish list if money were no object and time were no object. I was trying to get out of being so Europe centric this year. It's looking like that's not gonna happen, but you never say never. I had 2 major trips planned, and then one I allotted for spontaneous travel, and then the rest of the time is traveling around the country because I love UK travel. At some point this year, I really want to go to Sri Lanka, but I didn't realize that monsoon season is basically May to November. So I might do that for New Year's, but if not, I might do that in May. Like, it's already almost March and I haven't planned the trip, so it's like, it's not somewhere you go in June, I don't think, because it's like monsoon season. I don't know. I feel like I've sort of missed the boat on that planning, but it's not too late. It'll just happen later in the year. And then the second major trip, it was going to be this monumental trip, but I've cut it down tremendously. My friend is getting married in Seattle, and I'm flying into San Francisco. I'm renting a car, and then I'm gonna drive up the Pacific Coast Highway, or just along the coast, up to Seattle, and then I'll fly out. So I'm allotting a week to do that. A few days in San Francisco, and then driving up for a few days and a few days in Seattle. So I'm really looking forward to it. It was gonna be a much longer trip. It was gonna be a train journey from Chicago to California on the California Zephyr, but that's almost 2 separate trips, and my friend was like, you need to break that up. So I'm like, no, I have to hold off on that for a little bit. Okay, so Sri Lanka, Seattle, those are the 2 major ones. One spontaneous trip, which is Florence, and then everything else UK travel. I'll see if I can get more Scotland in. I'll see if I can get Jersey in. Probably not. Isle of Wight is on my mind, and Cornwall for sure. But Cornwall is like if I could work remotely. So it'd be like a week in Cornwall, but half of the time I'll be working remote, and then I can explore. The problem is, like, I don't have my UK license yet, and like I messed it up so bad, so now I have to redo my theory test. Like, the time passed, so I have to redo my theory test. It's such a shame. Like, I had tested for manual, and I was trying to get another exam in, but they didn't have any for January, and then I moved from the north back to London permanently, so that was like really sad. I'm trying to learn manual. Like, I want to learn manual. Ooh, I like this one. What is your zodiac sign? I am an Aries. I'm an Aries girl. I'm not like that into astrology, but I'm very proud of being an Aries girl. I'm passionate, fiery, hard-headed, generally crazy, and I love that about myself. What are your hobbies? So I think I've talked a lot about this before, but photography is more of a hobby for me. I know I've made money through it, and I've been trying to put myself out there as like pitching and stuff like that, but the reason I do that also is like so I can fund my travels, but also I don't think I would do that full time. I was editing for a project last year, and it took so long, so much of my energy, and I was fretting so much. I'm like, is this good? I hope this is good. And I was like, I can never do this full time because it's just like, it's so much. Do you have siblings? I have one sister, and she's older, and she's in DC, and I love her very much. She makes me laugh so much. She basically raised me, no shade, but that's how it is with eldest siblings. Like, I feel bad for her because of that, but I'm also like, I have her back 100%. I will fight anyone who tries her, and she knows that too. Like, I'm ready to pop off at any time. That's being an Aries for you. I think the last one I'll leave you with is, what are my goals for the rest of the year? To be honest with you, I don't really have more goals other than to save money, get my finances in order, and try to soak up as much London time as I can, and really fully live this year. To speak kinder to myself and to do well at my new job. Like, I want to do well. I'm on probation till like June, so it's as much of me accepting them as they accept me, if that makes sense. Regardless of whatever comes of it, I still want to do a good job at my job. Yeah, just networking. I'm very business and finance minded this year, and that's what I'm going to continue trying to focus on. I have been starting to get a move on. I've been to networking events. Yeah, I'm just trying to be smart with my money, but it's not happening. It's actually really hard to do this. If you have any other questions for me, because this was like such a quick and dirty YouTube sit down, get to know me Q&A, leave it in the comments below and I'll try to answer as best as I can, or in like another YouTube video. So yeah, that's all that I have for today. Thank you so much for being here and for watching. If you haven't already subscribed, it would be so lovely to have you, and I look forward to seeing you in next week's vlog. Bye!